All right, so we're reading currently on page 419 where we're talking about like currently what they're doing is they're talking about life cycle phases, right? So when it comes to feasibility studies, the first thing we need to understand exactly is what is feasibility. Now that's something that's not covered in the text. Let me slow down. I did see that in the recordings. So yeah, feasibility is something that is covered in the textbook. However, I do think it's important for us to look at the word feasible by itself, right? So what does feasible mean when you leave it by itself, right? So anything that is feasible, it means that it has taken into consideration everything that's needed for it to last for a while, and it feels like it's a path ahead. So if somebody says that that's the feasible or the more feasible option, it means that you have multiple options. One of them gives you some positive benefit. It will obviously have some negatives in there too, but it has some positive merit towards it. And if one is more feasible than the other, it means that one has more positive benefits overall than the other, right? Because with feasibility, we understand that a part of feasibility already recognizes costs. It already recognizes the negative. It already knows what we have to lose. So if something is feasible, it means that regardless of everything we have to put into it, we expect to get something out of it in the end. And further, we expect to get something out of it for a while, right? So what does feasible mean? It just really means that it's practical to do something and to achieve it, regardless of whatever constraints you have. So when we're talking about constraints, usually we're speaking about your triple constraint, right? But we understand that constraints in general, it speaks to our resources, it speaks to our time, it speaks to the capability of our team, as well as, the amount of space we have or leverage we have within the team to like make small changes, right? So when we're trying to see if something is feasible or not, we want to know that it's practical to achieve it. It's not just practical to do it, it's also practical to be able to achieve it and to have those results last for a while, right? Um, so a part of feasibility also encaptures profitability. It also encaptures sustainability. We expect it to last for a while on itself. We don't expect to have to continuously pour into it. Outside of just attention and nurturing, we expect it to continuously grow. It's like a plant, right? A plant is a very feasible thing to do. So what's more feasible if you want some I call it green onions now, but shallot, right? If you want some shallot, you can go to the supermarket, you can buy one bunch, and that could be feasible, right? Some people like to buy it with the ends cut off. I, for my entire life, have always bought shallot with the ends stuck to it. Why? Because I want to cut those ends off and replant them, right? In a couple of weeks, I have more shallot again. I don't have to go to the market and buy it again. So for me, buying it with the roots on is more feasible than buying it with the roots cut off. So both options are viable. They will both give me the ability to have shallot in my food today, but one allows me to have shallot for longer. So that one is more feasible, right? I hope that example makes sense. Um, yeah, so when we understand what feasibility is, we understand why we need it as we go through the project. So the first place you kind of start seeing feasibility coming up is when we're talking about the project manager. So in your teams, you all have at least two options for a project manager, right? Hold on, somebody's trying to come into the class. Why is my phone going off? This thing is creating a transcript. It's just typing everything I say. Let me turn my phone notifications off. All right. Yeah. So when we're the first place we start seeing feasibility is where we start looking for a project manager. Why? Because you have multiple options for a project manager, and naturally you want to use the one that works better for this specific project. So me and my teammate, we can both be excellent project team members. We can both have had extensive history working with different types of projects and so forth. It could just be that the specific project that we're working on today is something about maybe something in healthcare management, and my team member maybe is somebody that has studied in the healthcare field, so they have the edge over me, and so they should most likely lead this project because they most likely have more insights as to the way it should go and what the output at the end should be against myself that has not worked in the healthcare field, right? So both options are good. It's just that one is a bit more on the nose, a bit more sustainable, and a tiny bit has more longevity than the other, right? So those are the things we look for in our project manager. So naturally, we're going to look for the option that has the most of those good things to give to our project, right? So the first place we start seeing feasibility and we have to choose among options is when we're talking about who your project manager will be, right? We start looking at it again heavily when we're looking at what our project will be, and that's the most important place we look at it. So while it's important to have a team, a project manager that reflects the team as well as the project itself. The project can also survive with a mismatched project manager. It might be a bit difficult. You might have some ups and downs, but the project will probably still survive if you have a team manager that's a project manager that's not the greatest, but good enough. Why? Because you probably have somebody else within that team that's going to be able to pull you guys up, right? So in that case, you can probably get away with making not the best decision or not the most feasible decision by just picking your favorite maybe at the beginning. Versus when you are brainstorming for the topic, it becomes much, much more important to make sure that whatever topic or project you're working on is feasible. Why would I say that? Mainly because feasibility, again, it doesn't just speak to how good this project is going to be for everyone. It also speaks to um, how long this project will last and what this project will be doing in this space, right? So when you're looking to choose a topic, the very first reference point you should go back to is what was this team formed to do? What is our main goal here? What is the vision or mission of our project? When we understand what your project is for, you will understand what you have to do to get it there, right? So if I say I want you guys to all have projects that are centered, rooted in sustainability, it means that everything you do, right, at the end of the day, your project must be sustainable. It doesn't matter which direction you take it in, it must pull itself back to be sustainable. And that should be the most important thing about it. Why? Because I tell you that the most important thing is sustainability. I did not tell you that this time. I said I wanted to include it. I didn't say I wanted to be the main point. So you now have to choose the main point. So this is where you have to look at yourself. So I've told you guys that if you have a final project you need to do, you have a research paper you need to do for another course, you have another assignment you have to do for another course, you can use your project as a stepping stone to do that. You can use your project as your project can give you the ability to sit and write your literature review so that when you're going to write that project, you don't have to write that anymore because you did it in this class. All right. But for you, you're recognizing that you have an opportunity here that can be feasible where you want it to feed two courses at once instead of just one. That becomes more feasible than just doing a one-off project that might not have the same impact. It might be something you do, it looks great, you send it off to me, and then you don't look at it again. Versus something that you do and then you have the ability to look at it again. So in that case, doing a project that influences or works as a submission for two courses instead of one is definitely more feasible than one that can only really work in one space, right? So the big place you start seeing feasibility coming up is when we start talking about what we're going to research, right? So then what exactly is a feasibility study? So it usually happens during the conceptualization phase, or the phase where we're doing things like brainstorming and trying to put common sense into whatever we're doing. So we want to identify and define whatever problem we're looking to fix. And we want to identify and define possible solutions. It could be solutions that other persons have employed. It could be solutions that we have dreamed up and want to recommend. But these pieces of information are all coming up while we are brainstorming together because we want to go through all the ideas that our team has for our project. And then we want to pick the one that works the best, right? So when we're looking at feasibility, we're looking at not just what we want to do, but do we have the ability to start this project and finish it? Do we have all of the resources that we need to finish this project, or are we going to start it and then be left halfway? It's not feasible if we don't complete it. Why? Because then we won't get the benefits of it. So it's no longer feasible. So it's not feasible if you don't have all the resources needed to start and complete the project. So that's the first kind of baby step into feasibility, right? So feasibility studies is when you put all of these things together and you start to plan what the project development will look like. You start to estimate how much time, staffing, and equipment you need. And you're also looking to identify the probable costs and consequences of the project. So if you do that, if you have three options and you sit and you write these the answers to these three questions down for all of your projects, you can look at them and see which one is more feasible over the other. In project management, we actually have a few measures that we use to figure out which project we are going to move forward with. Right? So we usually would put all of our options down and then we weigh them against each other. Like we literally just weigh them against each other to see which one offers us the most benefit, which one fulfills our goal the fastest or the best in the most comprehensive way. And that is going to lead us towards which one is most feasible and which one we're most likely going to choose. The next important thing we need to remember is what was the mission. So I touched on this before. And so if the mission of your project is to have one that has the most benefit, you go for the one with the most benefit. If the mission today is, I'm not feeling so great about my financial stability, I'm kind of broke, then the most important option for you, the one that's going to outweigh all of the others feasibly, is going to be the one that brings in the most money. There is nothing inherently wrong with wanting your project to be financially sustainable. There's nothing wrong with wanting yourself as a human being to be financially sustainable. What is wrong is when you put the need for your financial stability over the need for somebody else's humanity. So as long as you are not putting your financial stability over somebody else's humanity, you should be fine, right? And your project should still be considered feasible if it doesn't harm anyone in the making of it, right? But the next thing we need to consider is the role of the executive team in your project selection. So often what you find happening in companies is if you have a project management team, you have a project management office, you probably also have people that work directly with the company and aren't really related with the project. They will just come in and out. So when we're talking about your executives in this case, we're talking about your C-suite persons who will pretty much be overseeing the project and giving you feedback as you go along. So the people whose opinion matter within the internal company. Right, so let's say you have a project you want to put forward and your management team consists of 4 seniors and you don't know any of them, right? You have 4 execs up there, you don't know anybody interpersonally, but you're going to go and you're going to try to bridge that gap. So you go, you talk with them. The first thing you need to know before you go there is what are they here for? What is the mission of this company? Okay, the mission of this company or vision of the company is whatever it is. Now you then look at, okay, so what has this person or what has this team been working towards while they're in power or while they're in management, right? Because management teams, they shape shift very often. Well, not very often, but often enough. So you're looking at, okay, what is the company created to do? And what are they actually doing? Are they saying, okay, we want everybody to have a great culture? Are they coming to work with great attitudes and treating their employees with respect? Or are they saying, oh, they want this to be the best place ever and then not not showing that in their actions? Are they bringing down team spirit in the way that they actually lead the company? So what are they supposed to do? And then what are they actually doing? So if we recognize that, okay, great, this is going in a direction that we like, the next thing we need to do is we need to understand them individually. So each person has a different goal. The CEO does not have the same function as, well, the chief executive officer does not have the same functions as the chief financial officer. That person also does not have the same responsibilities as a chief technical officer, right? So your chief technical officer is most likely going to be the person setting up all of the infrastructure that your company works within, whether it's the IT databases that we run on, whether it's the physical building that we run on, whether it's making sure that our team has the technical capabilities to do all of the things we need to do. That's what the CTO is there to manage. You're not there to manage the day-to-day feelings of everyone. Um, the next thing we would have is your CEO, who is pretty much there to manage the feelings of everyone. The CEO is the person who has to go out there, try to sell the company to investors or try to sell the company to whoever is managing it financially, to make sure that one, they know that what the company you're investing in, it's in the right hands, like I'm managing it well. They're also going out looking for business. They're going out looking for partnerships. They're going out scouting on the road to see what resources they can bring into the company. That is the CEO's job, right? So while the CEO does spend some time inside trying to make sure that, they manage team spirit, because team spirit, the culture of the organization, it really comes from the top, right? So that person is managing culture internally, and then that person is going out looking for external business to bring back in. Then on the other hand, you have your chief financial officer, who is zoned in and trying to make sure that the finances are great. How much profit are we supposed to have by this quarter? Do we have that level of profit? No. Do we have the level of revenue? Yes. Then what's happening with our costs? So the CFO or chief financial officer, that person is focusing on what happens financially. Now you're coming with a project and you want to make sure that you sell this project to the team of execs. You've got one other person that manages the day-to-day operations of the people. You can call that maybe your HR office or your operations office, right? So either of those two functions are most likely going to end up pulling the majority of the admin weight here, because most of these people that I mentioned just now are not doing much admin work, right? Financial statements, people don't usually, financial statements are not coded in a way that people should be reading it. Well, shareholders should be reading it. The general public should be able to read it, but we're really not trying to look at readability when we're looking at financial statements. The people who need to understand it will understand it. The CEO, they are just making a basic paper trail on everything that they do and sending that to somebody else, most likely to compile it. And then on the other hand, you've got your CTO, who is running around trying to make sure that the infrastructure stays in place, right? So you've got this team of persons, the four different people handling different parts of the business, and then you want to sell them something. You've got to come and say, okay, I need to sell this project. One of the first things I probably need is somebody within this group that cares about this project, right? So you don't just go to the management team and say, hey, like, I have this idea. What you do instead, or the most we're talking about feasibility here. So the most feasible thing to do in that case would be to look at everybody, look at your project, look at yourself, and figure out what communication style works best for you. Which one of these persons would it work the best on? Further, what is your topic? Right? What is the topic of this? What is the most important constraint? Is it time? If it's time, you can probably talk to the operations person or the CEO and just try to make sure that you have enough time. That person will definitely make sure that you have enough time if you're able to sell them on the most important part of your project. If your biggest constraint is finances, you want to make sure that you have the finance person on your team. Like, you should at least have them at least a tiny bit interested in your project. So look at the work that they've been doing. Make sure you align yourself with the things that they're interested in so that you get the support you need from that from the CFO. So in the same way, I'm telling you guys to make sure that your projects for this course in some way aligns with sustainability. That's because it's something that I'm passionate about. I don't like to see more wastage than is necessary. So I would like you guys to have projects that reflect that. But I understand that you are not me. So I cannot force that on you. I can just ask you to make sure it's sustainable and it aligns with one of the UN SDG goals. In a company, you might want to take that same approach, right? You're not the person, you don't know what they want. Well, you're not the person, you don't know how they react. So the best thing you can do is present them the best possible package that they could want. So I recognize that my biggest constraint is finances. So I understand what the CFO has been working on for the past year. I understand what his goals are for the upcoming year. And I go to him and I sell him my project. What am I doing that for? I'm not just doing that to make friends. I'm doing that to find myself a project sponsor. Your project sponsor or your project champion is the person within your management team, within that company that genuinely cares about this project, sometimes more than the project manager. There are times where the project sponsor or project champion is actually the person who comes up with the project. So maybe the CTO recognizing, hey, we have a need for ISO certification for something. And they can say, hey, let's find a team that can do this. And that person can champion it from right then and there. Or somebody from within the company can go and sell something to one of them. Not like sell with money, but you go and you pitch it to them. So what you're doing is you're trying to get somebody on that team to have your back because once you have a project champion, that person will always be in management meetings where you will not. They will be in spaces that you will not, and they can act as your eyes and ears to the higher management. They can act as the people saying, "Hey, like guys, like I understand you guys need more money, but we just don't have any more money right now. This is not something you should even bring up with the team." Right? And that's a conversation that you probably have with your project champion. It's not a conversation you can easily have with all of the management team, right? So when we're selecting projects, we're looking for the one that is the most sustainable, right? We're also looking for the one that we're also looking to have somebody within the team that can help us to sell this to everybody else. Why? Because we understand that, everybody doesn't listen to just one person. Spread the influence, right? So do we all understand kind of what feasibility is and what we're looking for when we're talking about sustainability, feasibility? Yeah, no. All right, so I'll start calling names. Earl, how do you feel about sustainability? Do you feel like you understand how feasibility works and why you would look for a project champion? Or are you still a bit unclear?
Yes, miss, I'm following. I think I understand the person's role and how important they are to the success of a project.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so what we do is usually we have different things that we look for on each option, and then we choose the one that's more sustainable. So let me take you through those things, right? So in a sustainability, we're looking at it usually during the project selection phase, which happens a lot of times between initiation and planning, right? So in initiation, it's really just let's pick the broadest topics. In planning, it's okay, how could we navigate everything that we have here? How do we maximize the use of all of the things that we have? How do we manage the people within it? How do we manage all of our stakeholders to make sure that everybody stays feeling like they're all connected to this project, like we're all one project community, right? So in that, we're looking at to do our feasibility study. We're doing it somewhere between our initiation and planning phase. We started in initiation and we pretty much finish it in planning. The things that we should get out of it when we're done planning, right? We should have a stakeholder analysis. Your stakeholder analysis will go through all of your stakeholders, everybody that is attached to the project and has interest in this project, whether it's a financial investment or you have just asked a person for feedback on something. Maybe it's a project manager, maybe it's an expert on a specific topic you engaged, and this person is so inspired by your work that they are like, oh, you know what? When you're finished, let me know what you come up with. So you write that person down that they should get a final copy of your project, right? Whereas everybody's going to be placed differently based on which stakeholder it is and what interest they have in that project. So in your stakeholder analysis, you're going through, you're trying to understand what all your stakeholders need, and you're ranking, not necessarily ranking them by how important they are, but you're ranking them in according to when you will have to contact them along the project, right? Along the project timeline. The next thing we look at outside of your stakeholder analysis is your client needs. Very important, because remember, you don't do this project for you. You're not handing it off to you when you're done. You are handing it off to somebody who has bought this thing from you. So you need to make sure that it's to their specifics. Your feasibility study will cover all of your constraints, so everything that is going to hold you back. Then you have your alternatives. So all of the constraints you have, you should also have alternatives to those. So just in case I don't get any pine wood or I can't find any Purple Heart, what is my next option? So you have pine wood, you have Purple Heart, you have some other wood. I don't think those things would actually work in the same construction group. So don't quote me on that. Like, I'm just calling two different woods that I can remember. So you have an option A, you have an option B. You could probably also have an option C. If you're like me, you probably have all the way to option F, because I love options. All right. I love to make sure that regardless of what happens, I'm gonna be done. So we've got your constraints, and then according to which constraints you have, you make sure you have alternatives for each one. Then you have your value management. So value management is really, really, really subjective to what are the values of this project? What are the values of this team? What are the values of this organization? And how do we make sure that we never cross those boundaries, right? This is the value of your organization. Your organization is all for respect for everyone. Do not disrespect everybody inside and anybody inside your project. Disrespecting somebody, whether it's a stakeholder, a shareholder, or just another team member, can get you put off the team. Or in worst cases, it can also get the entire project shut down. So we have to remember what the value systems are within the space that we're working in, and we have to manage that our values, or the value that is brought from the project, always reflects the values of the company, the organization we're working in. The final thing in your feasibility study is going to be your cost benefit analysis. So how much is this going to cost you, and what is the benefit of it? Is the benefit going to be realized in dollar value? Is it that we're investing $500 to buy seeds, and then we're making $5,000 back from planting those seeds, right? Yeah, what is the cost benefit analysis? Is it that we're planting 500 seeds, and while we're not going to sell this, it means that the community will be able to use food from this garden for the next month, and therefore not have to leave the community and spend money on gas, not have to emit gas into the air, and also be able to purchase goods or just come to the community garden and pick whatever plants they want for a much lower time and energy quotient than going to a supermarket, right? So what is the cost benefit analysis of what is the project? It doesn't have to be a dollar value, but we will bring it down to a dollar value, right? Because essentially that's how we kind of keep track of how well the project is doing by dollar values, right? So your cost benefit analysis, you really want to make sure that the benefit you're getting out of this, it kind of outweighs the cost and also the risk of doing it. Next, we will look at the project selection of just suitable projects and the assistance of various models. So when we're looking at different business models, I think everybody should generally have an understanding of how business models work. So before I get to the business model, when you're looking at the business model, you would have already gone past the project selection part. But what you're doing essentially is the very last part of project selection really is when you're doing your feasibility study, you have your different projects. So if you have 3 options, you have option 1, option 2, option 3. Then you have all of these different things. You've got your stakeholder analysis, your client needs, your constraints, your alternatives, value management, cost benefit analysis. If you want, you can put a dollar number to these things. What is something you can do immediately, what's something you cannot do immediately, something you might need assistance with. Which one will bring you the most money? You can maybe attach a score to each one of those different documents so that you can know, okay, which ones is best to work for. So as you create a cost benefit analysis for all three of these projects, they all will end up with different scores. Whichever one has the highest total score is most likely going to be the one you go with. Why? Because they're all scored or ranked um on the same criteria, right? You score all three projects the same, um, and you try to make sure that you pick the one that is most beneficial for the company and the time that you're currently in. Once you've done that, then we can move on to applying it to your business model, right? So business models, it can be two things. It could be that your business, you can look at the business model from the area where, in some situations, you have to take a vote to pick which project you want. In some situations, you just kind of pick the one that has the most options for it. So your model really is going to govern how your project will fit into the company, right? I think I want to explain that a bit clearer for you. I feel like I went a bit large on that explanation. Just give me a second to just kind of get my thoughts together. I've been talking for a little bit and now my sentence is gone. While I'm here though, I'll stop and ask if any of you have any questions, if there's anything you kind of want me to talk about a little bit more.
Nothing for me, miss.
Anybody else? All right. Yeah. I think I've collected my thought a bit more. All right. So, all right. So in the analysis of your project, in the analysis of your feasibility study, when we're talking about the return that we will get out of it, so how feasible it is essentially how much returns you'll get, right? The more feasible, the more returns. So when we're looking at the returns that we get from a project, we're looking for things like the final things to consider when choosing. So you've got your internal factors for your project selection, right? So most of what we were going through just now were internal factors. I don't know why the textbook nor this does that, but you really just kind of separate them by internal factors and external factors. So internally is most of the stuff I talked about. So how does the company deal with tiebreakers, or how does the company choose a project? Does the company just go for the one that has the highest grade? Do we vote on it when we're done? Those things are things that are governed within the company. Beyond that, also, we need to make sure that the company's goals or vision, their mission, their value system, it aligns with our project. So those are all internal factors we consider when we're talking about feasibility. Your cost benefit analysis, your client needs, stakeholder analysis, constraints, some of those things start getting external. So thinking about stakeholder needs, it's somewhat internal because they're your stakeholders, but it's also external because they're external people, sometimes external companies that have nothing really, well, not nothing to do with you, but they're outside of your scope of control, right? Now, the ones that are very much outside of your scope of control are the factors that will, the additional factors to be considered if it's something that's a really costly project. So in that case, we'll be starting to think about things like if we need to take a loan, what is the payback period for this loan? Can we pay back the period for the loan? Will the project end up being successful fast enough and profitable enough when successful to actually pay back this loan that you're going to take to run this project off? What will your return on investment be? Discounted cash flows, your net present value, your internal rate of return, your factor model, your cost break even analysis. Well, mostly just break even, right? So in those cases, what we're doing is we're looking at all of these things that are really, really governed by specifics. Like it's a really difficult thing for me to cover from here. We're gonna actually go into that a lot more in detail. Yeah, we're going to go into those things a lot more in detail when we're talking about project control and project estimating. But from this point, you kind of do need to look at that for your analysis. So most of you all would have, okay, my example, most of you guys would have done accounting, right? So in accounting, you all would have gone through something, your net present value, working through those, and your return on investments, your ROIs, right? So anytime you have to invest in something, especially a company's investing in something, they're usually investing in it for multiple reasons. One of them most likely is also going to be money benefits. So when you are trying to see which project is most feasible to do, you also have to look at the long-term ramifications of getting the company tied up in this project. Because remember, we don't just look at the fact that we have enough resources to start, we make sure that we have enough resources to complete the project in total and to also cover any expenses that we bring up, right? So all of these things are things we need to take into consideration or at least have a discussion on before we go ahead and choose a topic. Now, in this class, you guys are not going to have to go through all of these. I'm not going to make you do any of them, actually. We're just going to do them like in questions in class when we get to that part of it. But for now, what you guys need to understand is you need to make sure that you have a project that is both feasible for all of you. It needs to, in your cases, what feasibility is going to look like is that you're both and you're all, because most groups have 3 now. You have to make sure that you're all, one, engaged in the project so that you don't have to worry about people submitting things on time. 2, you have to worry about the cost benefit analysis of this for you. How much time and effort do you have to put into this course versus the reward that you'll get, which is your grade at the end? Is there a period where you're going to feel like the amount of work that I have you putting in it doesn't feel like it's enough for the grade? If that is something you guys are struggling with internally, you have to come and let me know, and we'll talk about it from there and see how we can review things, right? But in the feasibility study, you are looking at everything that you have going on, not just in class, but in your life, right? You guys are looking at as a team to make sure that, okay, you have a project that will be challenging enough to keep you all engaged and committed, and you have things to discuss when you're in your group, but you also have to make sure that it's Yeah, but you also have to make sure that it has some alignment to your UN SDG goals. You also have to make sure that it's something that you can complete within the short time that you have available to complete it. You also have to take into consideration the fact that people will not be available every single day and things will happen. For instance, today we were supposed to start our class promptly at 5, and then your lecturer showed up an hour late. Like, yeah, showed up about an hour 50 minutes, an hour and a half, about that, about 6:30. um so that threw some of you for a loop because some of you were not able to come to the class today, and that's something that I'm going to have to deal with because I have to make sure that it's feasible enough for everybody else. So I'm going to have to most likely pull an additional session. But at the same time, it did give you guys additional time to kind of talk amongst yourselves if that was something you wanted to do. It could give you a bonding topic. Oh my goodness, this lady is late and I'm here on time. Like, these lectures are so disrespectful. So it gives you a little bonding moment with your team, even though it's at my expense, right? So that's kind of how feasibility works. You've got your costs, you've got your benefits, you see which one makes the most sense for you, and you go along with the path. Sometimes of least resistance, sometimes of most profitability. Um, yeah. But these all start with, first of all, you have to identify the problem. Second of all, you have to define the solutions, right? Once you identify and define the problem, and then two, you identify this, you define possible solutions. From there, you know, okay, so these are my solutions. These are the options I have. This is the one I most likely want. But then you go back to your first question, identify and define the problem. Does the solution you solve, does it eventually define and solve the problem? If it does, 100% go ahead and do it. If it doesn't, then you have to find another project. Gotta stop here. I've got hiccups. Um, yeah. So do we have any further questions at this point?
What? What can we do?
No, miss.
Hi, Celine. I can hear you. Do you have questions? Yeah or no? No?
No, miss.
Oh, great. All right. So with that, I've actually covered most of what I wanted us to go through today. Um, it was really all talking about feasibility, making on your project selection. It's making sure that you guys have all the information you have to pick a project that best suits what you guys want to do. Yeah, project selection, you'll find it in your textbook. Feasibility is by itself. Project selection is also by itself. So we understand what feasibility is, that we're trying to make sure that we have the best option out of all of the options, right? We go for the most feasible one. And then in project selection, we all come together and we figure out where we need to go. So what is the role of the project manager in project selection specifically? So that person's role, the the majority of their role really is just to make sure that pretty much everything is good to everybody else, right? We want to make sure, like the project manager, like their major goal is to make sure that it goes along with what the company wants. It should align with the company's goals. It should align with the current objectives of that institution, right? Those are the things that the manager, the project manager will most likely be considering, right? They have to be able to say that this is the reason that we are selecting the project. They have to be the person to walk around and sell, just like the CEO walks around and sells the business to potential customers. The project manager has to go around and sell the project to different customers. So in order for them to do that, they have to have their pitch, and their pitch is most likely going to be, hey, do this for me because it's going to do this for you. Hey, invest and support my project because my project will make life easier for you at the end of it. So they're going to find their little pitch and they're going to go around and they're going to sell their project to everybody that they can find. So that is what the project manager is most interested in when the project manager is managing, is looking at which project should be selected, right? Whereas for the team members, they will most likely be looking at which one makes the most sense for them. It's not necessarily, yeah, for your project team, they don't necessarily care about it aligning. Some of them will, but most of them will not necessarily care about it aligning with organizational goals and all of that. Um, they will most likely just be considerate of the scope of the project, the time of the project, and what are the constraints that they personally are going to have to work with. And they are 100% fine for wanting to consider their benefit or themselves first. And that's the reason that we have a project manager, because again, the project manager is the project manager has to be the least selfish person on the team, right? They have to put in the most work, basically hold the most responsibility, put in the most work. That's what the project manager does. Whereas the rest of the team, they are also working, but then the responsibility of the outcome is not on them. They do what they can and they leave the rest. And I also don't fault them for it, right? But a good team generally will work cohesively to make sure that, no one person falls behind or no one person usually shoulders much more than the others. Usually teams kind of pull together and they work cohesively as a unit. Or at least most of the teams that I've seen function. Yeah. So we're looking at the tangible benefits that you'll get. We're looking at the intangible benefits that you'll get, and we'll pick the project that gives us the most benefits with the least negative impact. Sometimes we just go for the least cost also, right? Now, when you go through the chapter in the textbook, literally just search project selection. It will all come up. It's pretty much all going through the same thing we're talking about here. I'm literally going through it page by page right now to make sure there's nothing on these pages that I really, really wanted to tell you all. I feel like I told you all everything important that I found. Like I went through all my notes like 45 minutes into talking. Or like 35. Yeah. So do we have any questions? Does anyone have any questions for me? Okay, so we don't have any questions. So we have pretty much completed everything that we needed to on sustainability and project selection. Yeah. So I'm just gonna go in and I'm gonna come and talk to the class for a bit. So I do have a little project to put you guys on. How many people do I have in the class? I have 16 persons here. How many persons do I have that do not have any teams? Like, if you don't have a group, could you just put your hands up for me? So is everybody in a group then? I don't see any hands up. Hello?
Miss, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Whew. Yeah. For some reason, like, part of my screen is kind of like stuck. So I was wondering if I lost you all for one. Yeah, you're all in the same group because I haven't sent you off as yet. I just wanted to know for everybody that's in here, does everybody have a group or is there anybody here that are not in groups? Oh, you think we're all in groups? That's what you're saying? Okay. I'm looking at the names and I think I recognize everyone. Nandrini. Do I have you here on my list? Nantrini, are you there? You're in a group. Okay. I wonder if it's the group I created today. 'Cause I don't see you here on my other list. Okay. So in that case, that's great and all. So your project tonight is to come up with a group name, right? So yeah, I don't want to keep you guys too long tonight because I know I started late and then you guys probably went off and did something else and then you had to stop and come back to class. So I'm gonna give you an easy assignment tonight. I want you all to go into your breakout rooms and I want you to create group names, right? Your teams need names. Your name should be a representation of something, right? It should have some sort of symbolism or some sort of meaning to you. I'm not going to govern what your group name is going to be. And you do not have to tell me what your group name is tonight. But I do want you to have your group name on your team contract. You're going to get 1 mark for a name that is representative of something. Like it should be in some way adjacent to your topic or what you guys stand for as a group. Whichever one you choose to tell me, you can tell me when we, like, I don't think I want you to put it in your contract. Or maybe you could put it in your contract. Put your team name and then a little note on what the name means to you. Or you can just explain it to me when you come into class. I think I like that more. You just explain it to me when you come in class. I don't want it on the contract. So on the contract, you have to have your team name. I'm gonna end the class in 6 minutes at 8 o'clock. Right, so we're going basically from 7 to 8 today. I went through just the teaching alone today. We're not gonna do any tools. Yeah, we're not gonna do any tools because yeah, everything that we need to go through, all those tools, NPV and so forth that I wanted to do, we're gonna do them when we actually get down to estimating. For now, or maybe I'll do it when we meet on Wednesday, but I don't want to do any more tonight. So I'm gonna leave you guys with just that. Yeah, just that for now. So pick a project, a name that means something to your team, whether it's just 2 random words that y'all find funny, that can be fine too. Whether it's something that is directly related to your project, like it reflects or foreshadows what your project is going to be, that's okay also. But I have one question. Do you have one group chat for the entire class, or do you all have just your individual group chats with yourself in it?
This is one group chat with everybody in the class.
Okay, perfect. So just let everybody in the class know that you guys have to choose one group name that is tailored to whatever you guys are going to be talking about. Persons who are, well, anyways, you know what? I told the persons who were not within a group to send me a message already, so I don't need to send that in a message. I'm just gonna assign everybody to groups on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, I'll give people the last chance to come in and tell me where they want to be, because I do understand that this was my fault that we started late today. But I need to get all of the groups closed off. So if you guys have any friends that do need a group and you want to take them in, let them know soon, because I don't really want to put anybody in groups after Wednesday, because I feel like by Wednesday you would have already done the majority of the work on your, like, setting up your team and so forth, and I don't want to throw somebody in at that point. Somebody's asking for the link to the WhatsApp group. If somebody has a link, could they please share it so that persons who are not in can join? I am not gonna join, don't worry, y'all can talk about me in there. Yeah, so I'm gonna end the class here. The last thing you have to do for me today is just to put your names on your project charter and upload them into the folder I gave you. You're not allowed to upload without a group because I have to keep all of the group things together because 1 mark will be assigned. Celine, you have something to say?
Hi, Miss. Good night. Could you tell me
Hi.
when the project charter is due? Because I'm seeing it's due tomorrow.
Yeah, it's supposed to be due tomorrow. But I'm not gonna mark you down for bringing it anytime this week.
Well, I am.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
So, Miss
Mm-hmm.
Submitter,
Pardon? I didn't hear you. Something about submitting it. Okay. Yeah, I didn't hear you just now. So if you submitted it already and you want
I
to,
have any time during this week to submit it.
you should submit it if you have it by tomorrow afternoon because it's literally just a signature of your teammates, right? So if you have all your team members and you're closing off your team, go ahead and send the charter in. Yeah, so just sign and return into the folder. Amanda, you had your hands up?
Yeah, miss, I just wanted clarity on if it's just the signature you wanted.
Yes, dear. Just a signature. Yeah, so just a signature and we're good. Just a signature on the charter. The contract is a lot more work, so that one you can definitely submit it by the end of the week. So just get the charter out of the way. It's not too much. And then you do up your contract. Make sure you spend some time brainstorming a fun name that you guys want to be called for the rest of the semester. And then I'm gonna update the name in the folders. But when you give me your name, when you submit your contract, I'm gonna get the name from the contract. Yeah, so I think that's it for me tonight. I don't have anything else to go through with you. I think we are pretty much all set to go through the rest of the semester without too many issues. Do you have any questions for me before we close off for tonight? Anything you're still unclear about? Anything that's not adding up to you? Anything stressing you about the course right now? Sorry, I'm a bit sniffly. No? All right then. So I'm going to end the class here tonight and I will meet with you all again next week at the same time. Well, no, I'll meet with you guys Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Not at the same time. Wednesday at 5, right? So Wednesday at 5, we are going into successful organizations and team building. Yeah, at that point you would have already submitted your charter to me, hopefully. And then we go through successful organization and team building. You would have already had your group, so you can start thinking about that. Yeah, we're going to talk about the specific traits that make a project manager successful. We touched on them previously in the past 2 sessions, but we're going to go into it in more detail then. Beyond that, we have to look at the types of organizational structures and their impact on the project, right? So we did speak about one piece when we're talking about models, right? So how are decisions made in the company? Do you vote on one, or do you go for the one that has the highest profitability return, or the highest, yeah, profitability is the right one for their not revenue. So based on how the organization is set up, that will let you know how you make decisions as a team and generally how long it will take you to make decisions. After that, we're going to go into the purpose of project teams and the factors that contribute to success. So when it comes to the purpose of the teams, what are we here to do? Basically, we're here to complete the project. And if we're here to complete the project, what are the things that will make the project complete, right? What does complete mean? Does it mean that we're done and it's as profitable as it should be? Does it mean that we're just done and we just leave it and hope that it gets to the profitability it needs? What if we are profitable and we haven't completed all of the things that we set out to do? Do we just stop and go forward? So how do we deal with the things that contribute to our success? How do we define success as a team? And then the final thing we'll be doing on Wednesday is the human factors that are involved in teams. So while with your project manager specifically, we have a lot of things that the manager needs. So the manager needs to have leadership skills, motivational skills, conflict management skills, etc. While the team the project manager is the person that is most responsible for keeping the unit cohesive. The responsibility really and truly is on everyone because I mean, project manager can kick and scream all they want. If everybody within the team, they don't feel like a group, they don't feel connected to each other, they don't like each other, you will consistently have a lot of conflict. Right. So, how do we manage those within our teams? How do we look for them early? How do we, as team members, respect each other and work together harmoniously? Celine, your hand is still up. Do you have a question?
Sorry, no, miss. I forgot to take it down.
Oh, it was fine. All right. So in that case, I will end the class here. And we will meet on Wednesday and we will talk about all of this. Of course, these things are all on your course outline. I gave you guys all the information that I have. I use the same textbook that you're using. My examples are a little bit out of the way because I usually make them, well, not make them up, but I just kind of remember them on the spot based on how I feel like the class is responding. So if you do find that you need a further example on any specific thing that we talk about, if there was any topic that you're not clear about, please guys, if you're nervous, send me a message. If you don't want to talk to me in front of the whole class, send a message. I'll find time to help you guys one-on-one. We're early in the course now. I don't think it's difficult where we are. Spend some time looking at your team name. That should be a fun exercise. Put it on your contract. Keep your contract as a draft when you come to class on Wednesday as we go through these things. You might want to update your contract a little bit, right? That's the whole point of doing it on Wednesday and then submitting it after. So on Wednesday, if there are any additional things you need to have on your contract, you will figure it out then. And so you can submit to me after the next class. For now, if you can submit the charter to me, I would be very grateful for that. If you can't, I understand. We're still a bit butchy right now because I messed up today and we did not start on time, so we do not have our full group of people. So I will remedy that on Wednesday. The only other thing is, I have some students that are not in SEBI, they're health management students, right? Health science students. The situation is though that they have a clash on the Monday class for the last 3 hours. Would you all have any trouble moving the class from Monday to another day? Let's say maybe Tuesday or Thursday? I don't want to put Friday. Friday seems a bit too close to your weekend. Would you guys have an issue with moving the class from Monday to Tuesday or Thursday? Show of hands if you have a problem with either of those days.
Miss, us with psychology students, we have a psychology class on Tuesdays and
Okay, so
Thursdays.
Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay, yeah. So we have a definite issue there. All right, so I'll have to talk with them and see what I can do. I'll probably have to work with them separately. Yeah, I had that feeling because I know social sciences, like we went through the timetable. We didn't find any clashes on the timetable when we looked at it like a week before the course started. Yeah, I don't know that I can get the department to change the whole class date. Anyhow, so in that case, you guys go off, have a good rest of your day. I will see you all on Wednesday. Yeah. So bye.
Good night, miss.
Good night.